report. We're joined in studio by the Director of Research for the National Development Planning Commission, Richard Kodua, to help us unpack the key findings of this report. I'm grateful to you, sir, for joining us here on the Channel One newsroom. So, the report is indicating budget overruns, and some of the key ministries, the Defense Ministry, Education Ministries, are culprits in this. What were the major drivers of these budget overruns, according to the research that you've conducted?
Okay. So first of all, let me provide some background. So this is a monitoring and evaluation process that we go through every year.
All right.
In assessing the progress that as a country we are making towards the development frameworks that we prepare for ourselves. As a country, every 4 years we prepare a medium-term development policy framework, and we set some benchmarks, targets that we would like to attain. So for the period that we are assessing, over 2022 to 2025, on an annual basis, reports are prepared to give an indication of the progress that we are making. So this report that has been done is on the year 2024.
Okay.
Now, the year has to end before you'll be able to get all the relevant data to make judgment as to how we progressed. So the projects that are implemented by the ministries, departments, and agencies are all captured in their development plans. And on an annual basis, they implement these. So for infrastructure-related projects, it cuts across. Okay. You have almost all the ministries in one way or the other delivering on infrastructure projects. Roads and highways, you have Ministry of Education, some of the classrooms that are to be built. You have Ministry of Health, you have Energy, all delivering on these projects. So these are a number of projects that were supposed to be completed, and it's not just for 2024. But in the 2024, we look back. Some of the projects date back as far back as 7 years ago, 10 years ago, some even 15 years. And you may have heard the remark that was made that even some projects that were started way back in the Champions time, which within the country is still not been completed. So it's something that the Commission really is concerned about. And we're bringing it out so that we can look at ways to remedy the situation. What causes that? Usually the projects are budgeted for, so you know that if it's going to take 1 year or 2 years to execute, then there's a budget dedicated for it. If the budgets are released in good time and in the rightful amount, then the project can be executed, completed in time. But we are not able to do that. What causes that sometimes is also because we are not able to prioritize. And I say this not to indict anybody, but you have ministries, departments, and agencies, you know, well over 40. Projects over. And some of them, sometimes they anticipate that they will be able to get the needed funding to do it. They start, and some way in the course of the execution, they don't have all the resources to implement it. So it delays, and then it moves to the second year, it moves to the third year, and it goes on and on. The contractors that have been awarded the contracts to execute these projects, once it overstays its tenure, they would have to tender in contracts, revised contracts, because we, as a country, we also know the challenges that we face with inflation. I think this year we're coming down. As we speak, we have a single digit, as we have always projected or envisioned to attain. But previous years, you would have even 20, 23%, and then it has been coming down. So when you have inflation to that magnitude, definitely once the project is not delivered within the time frame and it has to travel several years beyond, then the costing will change because of inflation. We can also cite the case of exchange rate depreciation for this specific case, something that would have cost you, of course, in the dollar term, it may be the same, but once the cedi depreciates, then you need more of the local currency to be able to execute. And then there are slippages. Of course, if you anticipate that the economy will also grow by a certain margin or growth rate, and that is not realized, then it also contributes to revenues that will not also be attained. All these go in to create that scenario that has been painted. So it's a number of projects, I think well over 17,000 projects that we have accumulated.
I mean, how do we cure this? I mean, currently the government is undertaking some fiscal measures. Government is not spending as much. So some of these projects where government is supposed to release money will delay. And then in your next report, you are going to report some budget overruns again. How do we cure this?
Okay, so the advice generally has been that let us indicate in our project portfolios the ones that we are very sure of getting the funding to be able to execute. In other words, let's prioritize. Sometimes it may sound weird that maybe a whole ministry would just have 1 or 2 projects to execute. But if that is what you have the resources for, then prioritize and get these ones done before you add other ones. So we've been saying this over the period, but I think now because of what we are witnessing, and thanks to the Ministry of Finance, very committed to this cause so that we can have projects well designed, and then the financing of the project also well documented, so you know where the funding is coming from within that financial year. If it has to go 2-3 years, you have plans in place for the outer year funding also to be secured. Else, it doesn't get started at all. If you do it that way, then we wouldn't have the delays that we anticipate. Prioritizing also means that it has to respond to the national development priorities. Okay. We have a medium-term policy framework that is guiding the plans and projects or the programs of the MDAs. We are saying strictly that going forward, you need to have your plan prepared, reviewed by NDPC and certified. That way we'll be able to accommodate the interventions that you want to undertake and plan for the financing, so that we don't have the situation where so many projects are loaded, over 17,000, you can think of it, so that you just limit it to the ones that need really to be done, and then you can get them executed. We have local, as in national development goals, you have regional development goals like the Agenda 2063, and then you also have the SDGs. These are all things that really, the goals that really impact on the lives of the citizens that we lead. And our mantra has been that focus on the ones that you can deliver and deliver them, so that you don't run into delays and then having these
road infrastructure, capital intensive. Your report says that the road ministry owes contractors 89 billion cedis. I mean, could this account for what you say is 47% in good condition of our roads, 32% fair, and 21% poor?
So yes, the roads, as you always hear in the budget, we earmark the ones that are supposed to be done, and sometimes the financing is in anticipation that it will be delivered. There are instances where the funding doesn't come in the manner in which they are expected and could cause delays. So you may have a road that is supposed to be completed within a year, and then it goes beyond that 1 year. But as the point has been made, now we want to have all these projects lined up properly, documented, and then the costing also scheduled, so that we can have them executed. I think the government has come up with this big push, which is providing a scaled approach to financing our infrastructure development. Of course, road very high on the agenda, and it impacts a lot on our development. Private sector, businesses, even the logistics, people moving from one place to the other, goods moving from one place to the other. We have situations where goods, especially agricultural commodities, produced and they are locked up in the hinterlands. They are not able to move to the places that they are needed. And then you have them going bad because we are also not able to process them to increase the shelf life. And then it affects inflation, the prices of food go up, and it affects everyone. At the end of it, if we are not able to do this properly, then the lives and the livelihoods of people are impacted adversely, and it doesn't inure to the benefit of Ghanaians. So we want to address all these going forward.
All right. I'm grateful to you, sir. Mr. Richard Kodia, the Director of Research at the National Development Planning Commission. I'm grateful to you for coming here on the ChannelOne newsroom. Well, let's do some other stories now. And several homes at Atonsu, Kuwait, in the Asukwa municipality of the Ashanti region, have been submerged following hours of torrential rain on Sunday evening. Affected residents are blaming local authorities for neglect